What's going on, guys? Twig and Timber Outdoors here with Lucky Tackle Box, and today I'm going to show you guys how to tie one of my favorite small stream or wild trout stream fish catching machines. And this is a variation of a very easy trout nymph. And so first off, we're going to be using what comes in your Lucky Tackle Box, Umpqua size 10 or 12 nymph hooks. And we're going to secure it in our vise here, if I can get this out. There we go. Secure this nicely in our vise. Now, I typically suggest mashing our barbs, but not everybody likes to do that, so we're going to avoid doing that today. Alright. Today I'm going to be using Danville's 140 denier because you don't really need ultra lightweight thread, and we're going to snip that right off here. Alright. This is a beginner to intermediate nymph to tie. We're going to take it back to the bend of the hook here. First thing I like to do is I like to use a little bit of gray dubbing, and a lot of guys use wax, but I don't necessarily do that. I like to wet my finger a little bit, get the dubbing on there. This is just rabbit fur dubbing here, or you can use any artificial if you want. And we're just going to put a little tiny bump. It's not going to want to wrap super well today, that's okay. So we're just going to get that around the hook. Sometimes wax is beneficial, but just get a little bump there and bring it back to that spot. The reason I put the bump in there before we do our next step is we're going to take some white goose biots and we're going to snip 2 decently sized goose biots off. And when we do that, those are going to act as our tails. They can act as tails or as back legs because sometimes we don't know exactly what the fish see, but we're going to then take the goose biot, and there is a way where it bends. We're going to put that bend and have him flare out from the fly. So I'll show you here in a second. I'm going to tie it in. See, I like to measure mine about 3/4 to the full length of the, let's see here, of the fly. A couple loose wraps, and I like to tie mine in pretty deep because realistically this material, the goose biot material, doesn't like to stay on. And we're going to take the other one, the other goose biot, we're going to find the way it flares out, we're going to put it on the other side, match it up, and repeat the process. Alright, work our way back, and by putting a little bump in there beforehand, alright, see how it kind of flares out like that? Alright, and if you see me putting half hitches in here, it's because, you know, when you're working with thread that is lighter, I'm accustomed to throwing in half hitches because it will save my progress in case I accidentally break the thread. Now, I am going to take a spool of thin or light copper wire, nothing crazy, and I'm going to tie it in. Some guys like to tie it in on top, others differently, but realistically, for me, it doesn't matter where. But if you tie it in on top, you can avoid bumming up or messing up the tails when we use it. Now, some vices will have the ability to store the material in the back, but for today, I'm just going to snip off probably about a 3-4 inch section, and it'll lay nicely back here. Now, we're going to take some more of that gray dubbing. We're going to apply it in a nice little dubbing noodle. The tighter you can get it, the better, because you don't really need much, especially in the lower part of the fly. And we're going to start our wrap forward. And what I like to do is I like to do a nice little wrap forward, get a hold of the material again, and wrap back. Get a little more of this here dubbing. It's a very simple fly. Let's see. You could do this with a dubbing loop, but realistically, if you want to tie it quickly and easily, you just need some wet hands. Let's see. Lost it a little bit there. Okay, work our way back up. Again, I'm going to get a little bit more dubbing. I like to do it in small spurts. Notice the overall profile of the fly isn't too small, but let's see. Boom. Alright. Okay, now I'm going to make sure that I get a good half hitch in here, because what we're going to do now is we're going to get a hold of some more of those goose biots. I'm going to clip 2 more off. Basically what I'm doing is I'm feathering it out like this, and I'm snipping them off. And the way they fold back is the way they face out. Now what I'm going to do is take my goose biot. I'm going to tie it in about 3/4 the way, and by doing a couple loose wraps first, you can determine the length you want it sticking out. And then what I'll do is cinch it down, throw a couple security wraps in, and work my way back. It's not pretty, but it all gets covered up anyway. Same deal with this next biot. Just match it up. Boom. Now we're going to throw a little more dubbing to cover up what we just did. Suggestion to you is if you wash your hands before you start tying, it actually helps with dubbing. Now same thing, we're going to do 2 more, the last 2. Again, goose biots. And you can change up the color. I just find that white works extremely well when contrasting with the gray, or with dark bodies as well. I've tied this in a bluish, a purplish, whatever you have on hand. Again, a couple loose wraps, then you can adjust what's going on. And then, because what's going to happen is when you tie these, they're going to want to move on you. I'm going to throw a few security wraps in, boom, work my way back, and then I'm going to get that second biot I snipped. I'm just going to snip another one for you because I don't want to waste your time. I think I dropped it. That's okay, quite a few come on these. And I tie so many of these because they're so effective that I have tons of goose biots. Loose wraps again, remember. Make sure it lines up the way you want it to. This one might be a little high, so we're going to drop it. There you go. And by putting on nice little pressure, what it does is it flares it just a little bit. Okay. There's that. Now we're going to throw a little more dubbing on. Not much. We don't want to overcrowd the head. might even taking a little bit too much of my gray here. So we're gonna throw this on the thread here. Alright. Go. Because don't forget, we still have this copper wire. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work a half hitch in here. If you have a rotary vise, this is when it comes in handy, but if not, it's no big deal. You can wind it. I'm going to take my copper wire, work it against the way I dubbed. This is the fly that caught all my biggest trout. I'm going to work it all the way up to the front. I'm going to capture it with my thread. I'm going to make sure I get a good couple turns in there, and you should be able to twist this right off. Just kind of helicopter it. Should break. I think I moved my vise a little bit there, so let's get this corrected here. Boom. Okay. Now all I have to do now is you can throw a couple half hitches. You can throw a couple whip finishes in. I will do 1 and 2 3-turn whip finishes. Snip off my thread, and I always, regardless of what I tie, will put a little bit of head cement on the wraps. There's your fly. That right there will catch a ton of fish, especially if you, for example, if you're Euro nymphing or anything like that and you're using, you can weight it with some lead-free wrap. You can put bead heads on it. I know I've caught a ton of fish by putting an orange bead head on it, especially in that pre, during, and post-spawn time. It can act as an insect getting into a bee or into an egg. It can also act as just free-floating insect. Fish will annihilate it. Hopefully you guys liked the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, check out the other videos in the playlist, and until next time guys, catch you guys on the flip side. Tight lines, and we're out.